RMC has been crushing it for a full 10 years now, and they've produced some of my all-time favorite coasters. All 14 that I've ridden are in my top 50, with 4 in my top 10. So you think that I wouldn't have anything to complain about, right? This is a coaster channel. There's always something to complain about. This is why everyone hates us. Today, I'm going to talk about the biggest flaw from every RMC that I've ridden. I used to be able to brag that I've ridden every American RMC, but with Jersey Devil officially open, and me not getting there till July, I can't do that anymore. Oh yeah, and Stunt Pilot. No idea when I'm getting back to Silverwood. It's just so far from everything else. And I'm not just talking about other parks. It's in the middle of nowhere. Iron Gwazi has also just been sitting there, taunting everyone for over a year now. And from what I can tell, its biggest flaw is the fact that it can't seem to find a way to open. And that makes it the biggest flaw on this list. Let's start with my least favorite RMCs and head north to the best in the country. The RMC Raptor prototypes will kick this off. Railblazer and Wonder Woman. Both are super exhilarating rides, with some of the most insane forces you'll find on any ride out there. But it wasn't hard to find the flaws. 30 seconds of ride time is not good, even if it's an awesome 30 seconds. But that's not the worst part. It's the restraints. These are the only RMCs that don't have just lap bars. And despite what people say, I think those lap bars are awesome for getting airtime. The shoulder straps, not so much. Your shoulders fly right into them, and with those crazy negative Gs, they could end up bruised if you ride a few times. For how innovative RMC is, it's hard to believe that this was their best solution, and maybe down the road they'll improve on it. I imagine that this is probably the biggest flaw on Stunt Pilot and Jersey Devil also. Goliath at Great America is like a Raptor, if the Raptor was about twice the size and made of wood. It has a compact plot, built from the ground up, meaning it wasn't a conversion from another coaster. So ride time is a problem here too. Goliath is a very short ride, but just like the Raptors, I'm not going to call that the ride's biggest flaw. For me, it's the filler elements. The Raptors come at you with so much in a short amount of time. Goliath has that great drop. It has the ejector hill. It's got a dive loop and a stall, but it also has what I consider filler track. Both the first turnaround and the final turnaround. These elements really do nothing. Just whip you around to change direction. And for a short ride that really can't afford to waste elements, this wastes two. New Texas Giant, the original RMC, and the one where you can kind of tell they were dipping their toe into the water just to see how people would like it. Because this was the prototype, it's got a lot of mild elements. This was Sophie's first RMC, and I thought it was a great choice to introduce her to the world of RMC because it's such a mild ride compared to the others. It has a great drop and several good airtime moments, but it also has a lot of bank turns and slow sections at the end where it starts to run out of gas. For a prototype, it's great, but compared to what RMC has been up to lately, especially with coasters the size and scale of the original Texas Giant, some of those mild elements leave you wanting more. Twisted Cyclone is a phenomenal coaster, an absolute masterpiece from start to finish. Only problem is how close that finish is to the start, and that's really the only flaw. Maybe it's a good thing, since it probably wouldn't have enough momentum to carry out a good third lap, but I think 2 extra elements could have gone a long way. They were probably restrained by the existing structure of the Georgia Cyclone, as well as Six Flags budget, so we got what we got. Let's be thankful that we got some intense ejector moments, well-timed inversions, a killer wave turn, and a unique reverse cobra roll. Joker gets stumped on by a lot of enthusiasts, saying how it's the worst RMC. And even though I would put it in the lower half, I think it's a solid ride. Different, but solid. Joker really shines in the beginning with its 2 awesome inversions, and then it seems to lose a lot of its gusto in the second half of the ride where all the airtime is. On my last rides in 2019, I noticed just how weak some of those airtime hills were, even on a hot day with a full train. Where coasters like Twisted Cyclone have so much bite in their elements, Joker was pretty much just gumming you like a toothless old lady. It seems like the elements need to be on a slightly smaller scale to make them pop. Outlaw Run has become my new home RMC, and it's grown on me over the past year or so, from my least favorite non-Raptor to something that's approaching my top half. It's a brilliant layout in the woods, almost entirely hidden from the park, and it's chock full of intense and unique elements. That being said, it's a short ride, but I can forgive it for being a short ride because it doesn't have any dead elements. My biggest problem is the roughness. In the back row, it always seems like I'm bouncing up and down from the start, as if the wheels were made out of squares, or triangles at best. They're definitely not round. If Silver Dollar City gives up and goes the route of his sister park Dollywood, and gives Outlaw Run a bunch of iBox track, I think that would benefit the ride experience greatly. Iron Rattler was RMC's second project, and it was clear that they were branching out a little bit from their prototype. This was especially apparent with our first inversion, that heaven roll that put the train on the quarry wall. But this led to Iron Rattler's biggest flaw, and that's what I call the quarry crawl. It loses so much speed by getting on top of the quarry wall that it doesn't have much to get through all its twisted elements up there. It feels like the train is just kinda tossing you up gently, and you thrust forward rather than upward, and it seems like you're kinda just going through the motions, leading up to the ride's grand finale, the epic dive off the quarry wall into the tunnel. I wish Iron Rattler found a way to have a little more speed after the barrel roll. Maybe they could have given the lift a little more height, or greased up the wheels, or something. I really don't care. Storm Chaser was such a tough one to call. It's RMC's only all-steel iBox coaster, which doesn't really mean anything. It's just interesting, I guess. It's not that tall, but it has elements in perfect proportions, so everything pops hard, especially those airtime moments. What's possibly wrong with this RMC masterpiece? I'm stretching this one a little bit, but I'm gonna say it's too short. Discounting the Raptors, only Twisted Cyclone is shorter in track length, so maybe it could have used a couple more elements to round it out. Again, I'm stretching. I really don't come off Storm Chaser thinking it's a short ride. Usually, I'm still stunned by the power of that airtime. If Storm Chaser was a hard one to complain about, then Twisted Timbers is even worse. What's wrong with this thing, not having any flaws? Hurler had a pretty bad layout, and RMC had little to nothing to work with, and they did an amazing job with it. Basically, let's just throw airtime at them until they're sick of airtime. If you weren't super into airtime, you could claim it has too much airtime, and it's too focused on airtime. Am I saying airtime too much? Seems like I'm saying airtime too much. But I am talking about Twisted Timbers, so it seems appropriate. A triple camelback. Who does that? But it's gonna be an airtime machine, so why not? Twisted Timbers also has a cutback and a barrel roll to go along with a barrel roll down drop, and an awesome off-axis airtime hill. Seriously, no complaints. Oh wait, it has that weird shimmy at the end because the station and the brake run aren't quite aligned right. There's your flaw. Phew, finally found it just in the nick of time. Twisted Colossus is a coaster that I've ridden more than any other coaster in the world. I used to ride this thing at least once a week. Sometimes on a slow night, I'd grab a ride or 7, and I'd love every second of it. Well, except for the long drawn-out lull on the second lift hill. Twisted Colossus offers 60 seconds of ride time, broken up by two 30-second sections, separated by more than a minute of lift hill. And it's not a fast lift hill. It slows down to try and let the other train catch up so you can duel. But usually, that train is nowhere close. It's funny in the animation. The train flies up that green lift without stopping. I don't know if that was just for the animation's sake, or if that was really the original intention, but that would have cut down on the crazy long amount of downtime between the two sides. Maybe some of you would say the biggest flaw is that they can't always duel, and I would put that a close second. Lightning Rod has been worshipped by the coaster world for 5 years now, and when I rode it when it first opened, I was fully on the hype train. It did things that I never imagined a coaster could do. Airtime where I've never seen airtime come from before, and to do it with a launched lift hill train setting. It slid into my top 3 right away. But reliability has always plagued this coaster, and that's undoubtedly its biggest flaw. My rides in 2019 were also kinda rough, but the park replaced a lot of its topper track with steel iBox track in 2021, so that should take care of that. It was down a lot in 2016, had a pretty good sophomore year in 2017, was down for most of the summer in 2018, and after sporadic operation over the years, Dollywood and RMC continued to try to make tweaks to keep the ride open more often than not. Wicked Cyclone was my first RMC, and I was blown away by the experience in 2015. I'd never ridden anything so smooth, with so much airtime and whippy inversions, and it kicked off my love for RMC that continues on to this day. Wicked Cyclone was one of their early projects, but they did a masterful job with the layout, considering they didn't have a lot to work with, like with other projects. I appreciate the third lap around the course. Otherwise, it would have been around the same ride time as Twisted Cyclone, but that third lap can get painfully slow, and the pacing on that third lap is the biggest flaw. I wish RMC could have found a way to make it a little taller. This would have given it a little more speed to work with around that last lap. But if you ride this in the morning and the train isn't full, it feels like you're not going to make it through. An afternoon ride with a full train gives this a little more bite, so I recommend you ride it then. Otherwise, that finale to an otherwise epic ride is just kinda sad. Finally, we have my number 1 overall coaster, Steel Vengeance. What's wrong with Steel Vengeance? Not a flippin' thing. It's tall, it has a vertical drop, it has the most airtime in any coaster in the world, and it's real legit airtime. Not like the airtime the Voyage was trying to pitch. No offense to the Voyage, you're still in my top 5, but its airtime record was kinda weak. Steel Vengeance offers ejector throughout the whole ride, but that's not what it's all about. It also has whippy inversions. It also has over a mile of track, making 3 laps around its enormous footprint without losing steam until the final brakes. This is gonna be a real nitpick section to find a flaw. So let's see. The line is always long. Back when it was Mean Streak, there was never anyone in the station. Now, the line wraps around the whole park, and it just sucks. Also, it has a mid-course brake run, but I don't think I've ever felt it slow the train down, so I guess it's fine. If you know of a flaw with Steel Vengeance, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know what you all think. I know a lot of people who rank it lower in their top 10 or their top 20, so maybe there's a reason that they see that I don't. These are the world's 25 worst coaster names. Number 12. Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. I used to have this way higher on the bad list, but I respect the backstory. But I always thought the name sounded forced and awkward and tried too hard to sound tough. I've been cold on this name since the day it was announced. That's all for the flaws on American RMCs, focusing on the ones that I've ridden, of course, since I don't judge rides that I haven't ridden, because frankly, that's not possible. Let me know what you think of these picks, and where you may agree or disagree. Sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like. That's the best way to show your support for the channel. And if you're new here, and love seeing random YouTubers making pointless ranking videos, I'm your guy. Be sure to sub and hit the bell. Also check out my links below for the Discord server, where you can chat with other fans of the channel, as well as my second channel, where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.